Is that a cloudy sky I see? You really got to enjoy this weather when you get it during the monsoon season, because it doesn't happen often enough to really be enjoyed. Oh my God, that was badass. That was a good one. It was one of the reasons I actually came out. Trying to get a few good lightning strikes. Now, to be honest, I am a pretty realistic person. A lot of people would advise that I don't go for walks out in the middle of an electrical storm like this. Well, I don't live in the plain states and stuff, and I don't really worry too much about getting hit by lightning, because the chances of me getting abducted by aliens are just about around the same as me getting hit by lightning. That, and I just wanted to go out for a walk anyway. Oh, another good one. I'm gonna have to see a really good one to top that first bastard, though. That was nice. That was really nice. That light's getting a little bright. So, you know, most of my room, if you probably didn't already know, is actually getting stuffed in boxes right now. When I said I was preparing towards moving out of Vegas, I wasn't kidding. I'm looking into investing a bit of my money into one of those pods things. You know, big white moving containers and such. And just pack everything that's in my room in one of those, and pretty much I'm good to go. They'll ship it for you and everything. I've always been kind of not so trusting of moving services and such, simply because I've heard horror stories, especially about starving students and stuff, where they basically just chuck your stuff in the backs of their trucks and they don't give a shit. You know, they can break it for all they care. Doesn't matter to them. Well, that was a good one. I'm just trying to be not only frugal about this whole thing, but practical as well. Because I have a lot of expensive stuff that I invested a lot of money in. Especially when it comes to creating music and stuff. And I can't afford to have all that broken. That would really suck. Oh. Now, let's see. I guess if I keep going this way, which is my usual walk and talk route, you'll be able to see some good strikes. So once I get around the corner down there, it clears up pretty well. Somebody fucking a dumpster, or somebody having a band practice? What is that? I guess it was somebody fucking a dumpster. Anyway. So there was a comment left on one of my videos by a user whose name I cannot recall. I think it was Synth something or other. Mercy Synth, something along them lines. And they had requested something a few other people have requested before that I talk about. And it's, you know, how I've overcome depression and a couple of things that I've only mentioned in videos and stuff. So I guess on a dark and stormy night, what more appropriate location? I mean, if all goes to plan, by the end of this video, I'll either be hit by lightning or abducted by aliens. But yeah, it's actually one of the few times I'm glad the little puppy isn't running around. It's been storming like a trifling bitch out here. I wouldn't want that little guy to get all stuck out in the weather. Anyway, I thought people was following me because I heard people back there. So when it comes to my depression, a lot of it had to do, and still does, with a very, very odd upbringing. I was loved by my parents, but never truly raised by them. My mom and dad, they were never in the position to be parents. You know, they never had the money, and they never wanted to give themselves the time. And in a circumstance like that, you know, I can imagine some people scratching their heads going, well, you loved these people? They obviously weren't going to take the fucking time to give a shit about you. Well, my dad gave a shit about me enough to know that he had to let go and unfortunately relinquish me to my granddad. You see, the dichotomy that I grew up with is like a line just cut straight down the fucking middle. My grandparents, they come from a pretty rich lifestyle. Really laid back. They have the money to afford things, you know, and make their life a little more leisurely. My parents, on the other hand, were living out of a goddamn truck. A lot of my depression comes from the fact that a lot of kids had the ability to go home to their actual mothers and fathers and have the same kind of life that my grandparents were giving me, whereas I didn't have that leisure, and they would pick at me, and, you know, they'd, whoa, that was a nice bright one. You know, I'm surprised I'm not hearing the thunderclaps from any of these. They must be really far out. Really way off out there. But the thing was, you know, yeah, I get picked on a lot for it. And it was like, it was out of my control, really. And I'm not only to couple that with the fact that my grandparents come from a pretty old world mentality when it comes to parenting. You know, they don't ground you. They don't really do any of that shit. They just beat the shit out of you and guilt trip you until you feel like crap and then console you later. 25 years after the fact, yeah, but it still sucked. It took me a long time to forgive my granddad for that when I started to realize that this is how he was raised. This is why to him it's normal, even though by an honest standard it isn't in any other circumstance. Also, a lot of my depression not only came from that, but from the fact that I've dealt with loss very much in my life from about my mid-teens. The first person who ever died in my life was my mom's mom. I didn't have a very deep connection with her, but, you know, it still sucked. I was about 8 years old. They dropped the news on me. And I guess it predefined how I was to handle loss and death pretty much from that point forward. Because from that point forward, I've kind of had a moment of just blankness and an emotional malaise when someone dies, which worries me a lot about when my grandparents pass away, how the fuck I'm actually going to handle it. Because I don't know if I'm going to handle it very well at all. They've been the only parents I've ever known. The second person in my life who died was a very close friend of mine. She was basically the closest thing to an actual sister that I've ever had. And I don't want to go into too many details about it because it's just depressing to even think about. But she was murdered. And dealing with that wasn't easy. I'd never been too overly emotive of a person. I know this YouTube thing seems to be kind of contradictory to that, but people that know me personally, they can vouch that I'm kind of an introverted person a lot of the time. It's not by choice. I think it was as a coping mechanism from that situation I kind of just shut down. After that, my mother passed away, and that caused a lot of grief and depression too. I mean, after Mom died, I was broken. I mean, it was basically a 4-year period of watching my mother suffer with cancer and then just die. You know, my dad, he didn't make a lot of money throughout his life. He had a landscaping business, and unfortunately, his vices and such kind of stripped his business away, and he did very little to avoid that. In fact, I think he was the progenitor of those problems in the first fucking place. But I digress. He never really made a lot of money, so he really couldn't afford her a lot of the medical treatment I feel she deserved. Hold on. I may have to split this video in 2 parts because I am running low on memory here. But dealing with that while I was kicked out of the house because of my own stupid decisions to compensate my problems with chemicals, you know, it was heavy. A lot of the depression I faced in life and have faced is just really heavy. It feels like a lead sheet that just covers you, and you don't have any other recourse besides just sit there with this ginormous weight on your shoulders that you didn't ask to be there. And a lot of the way that I've dealt with it was just stepping back, removing myself from the situation mentally, and figuring out how to, that was a good one, how to better assess it. It's kind of like why I do these walk and talk videos. You know, just the loneliness of this, you know, night street. Sometimes that's enough to just clear my head. Oh, little thunderclap there, finally. Thor's hitting the drums for sure tonight. You know, it's just things like this. It's very therapeutic to me. That's how I personally deal with it. And I have a lot of anxiety because of a lot of stupid shit within relationships that happened to me, and having been taken advantage of in other aspects in my life, it gives me kind of an underwhelming paranoia that really is hard for Becky to deal with at times, but she does a very good job of dealing with it. A lot of people, they like to take advantage of the fact I have these issues in the first fucking place. Somehow or another, they think that, oh, you know, it'll make you a stronger person, and all of my questions, you know, toward them is, what the fuck are you even on? You know, oh yeah, sure, like take advantage of it, be a stronger person for it. Not really, fuckwit. That life doesn't work that way. What tablet is that inscribed on, where that makes sense to someone? Because it sure as fuck doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. I kind of wish I had more memory in this camera to keep talking. I'm only down to 480 megs, and believe it or not, you use through them very quickly on these. You really do. It sucks, but whatever. Maybe I'll do another podcast or something. Ooh, that was brilliant. Maybe I'll do another podcast and follow up on this, but yeah. Anyway, until next time.